Constitution of India. In this presentation, we will see the second module of this subject and the contents are given here. What is a state? According to Article 12 of the Constitution of India, the state includes the government and the Parliament of India and the government and legislature of each of the states and all local or other authorities within the territory of India or under the control of the government of India. In other words, we can say that a state is formed by the executive and legislature of the Union, the executive and legislature of the various states of India, or local or other authorities within the territory of India, or local and other authorities who are under the control of Government of India. Then what is legislature of the Union and legislature of the states of India? A legislative union comprises of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha in Parliament, while at the state level the legislative is composed of Legislative Assembly, Legislative Council and Governor of the state. Currently, only 6 states have Legislative Council. They are Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra, Telangana, UP and Bihar. Next, we will see the key terms under this article. Parliament. The Parliament comprises of the President of India, the lower house of the Parliament, that is the Lok Sabha, as well as the upper house of the Parliament, that is the Rajya Sabha. Next, executive. It is that organ which implements the laws passed by the legislature and the policies of the government. Legislature. The legislature is that organ of the government which enforces law. Finally, government. It is a law-making or legislative branch and administrative or executive branch and law enforcement or judicial branch of the state. Next, state legislature. The legislative body at the state level is known as state legislature. It comprises of state legislative assembly and state legislative council and governor too. Local authority can be a municipal committee, district board, board of commissioner or other authority legally entitled by the government within the control or management of a municipal or locally funded system. The term other authorities in Article 12 has nowhere been defined. Next, we will see what are the fundamental rights as per Indian Constitution. Fundamental rights are essential for intellectual, moral and spiritual development of citizens of India. These rights are fundamental or essential for existence and all-round development of the individuals. Harold Joseph Lasky, he is an English political theorist and economist, defines fundamental rights as those conditions of social life without which no man can seek to be himself at his best. Fundamental rights apply universally to all citizens irrespective of race, birthplace, religion, caste, sexual orientation, gender or gender identity. The Indian Penal Code, Code of Criminal Procedure and other laws prescribe punishment if these rights are violated. And these are the fundamental rights: right to equality, Article 14 to 18, right to freedom, Article 19 to 22, right against exploitation, Article 23 to 24, right to freedom of religion, Article 25 to 28, cultural and educational rights, Article 29 to 30, and finally right to constitutional remedies, Article 32. The fundamental rights were included in the Constitution because they were considered essential for personality development of each and every individual and to preserve human dignity. All people, irrespective of race, religion, caste, or gender, have been given the right to petition directly the Supreme Court or the High Court for the enforcement of their fundamental rights. That means you can go to court in order to enforce a fundamental right, irrespective of race, religion, caste, etc. These fundamental rights help not only in protection but also the prevention of gross violations of human rights. They emphasize on the fundamental unity of India by guaranteeing to all citizens the access and use of the same facilities irrespective of background. Then, a state of national emergency has an adverse effect on these rights. Under such a state, the rights conferred by Article 19, that is, the freedom of speech, assembly, and movement, etc., remain suspended. Next comes the right to equality. Equality before the law. Article 14 of the Constitution guarantees that all people shall be equally protected by the laws of the country. Social equality and equal access to public areas. Article 15 of the Constitution states that no citizen of India shall be discriminated on the basis of religion, race, caste, sex, sexual orientation, gender, or gender identity or place of birth. Equality in matters of public employment. Article 16 of the Constitution lays down that the state cannot discriminate against citizen in the matters of employment. Abolition of untouchability. Article 17 of the Constitution abolishes the practice of untouchability. Abolition of titles. Article 18 of the Constitution prohibits the state from conferring any title. Titles like Raja, Maharaja, etc. is abolished in Indian Constitution where the words of equity is expressed. These titles express some domination and suppression among common man. So the titles are abolished. Citizens of India cannot accept titles from a foreign nation. Next comes the right to freedom. The Constitution of India contains the right to freedom given in Article 19, 20, 21A and 22. Freedom of speech and expression on which the state can impose reasonable restriction in the interest of the sovereignty and integrity of India. That means one has a right to express one's own convictions and opinion freely by the words of mouth, writing, painting, etc. But if the state feels that freedom affects the sovereignty and integrity of our country, then they can impose restriction on those freedom of speech and expression. Freedom to assemble peacefully without arms, on which the state can impose reasonable restriction in the interest of public order and the sovereignty and integrity of India. Freedom to form companies or unions or cooperative societies, on which the state can impose reasonable restrictions in the interest of public order, morality and sovereignty and integrity of India. Citizens have the freedom to move freely throughout India, although reasonable restrictions can be imposed on this right in the public's interest, such as to control an epidemic. Restrictions on movement and travel can be imposed. That is actually what is happening in India, not only in India, globally right now. That is, in order to control the outbreak of COVID pandemic, restrictions are imposed in the form of lockdowns. Freedom to reside and settle in any part of the territory of India, subject to reasonable restrictions by the state in the interest of general public or for the protection of the scheduled tribes, because certain safeguards envisaged here seem to be justified to protect the natural and tribal peoples from exploitation and coercion. You can reside and settle in any part of the territory of India, provided the state government will take care of whether you are exploiting the natural resources or the tribal peoples, etc. Freedom to practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade, or business is there, but the state may impose reasonable restriction in the public's interest. Next comes the right against exploitation given in Article 23 and 24 provides for two provisions, namely the abolition of trafficking in human beings and beggars and the abolishment of employment of children below the age of 14 years in dangerous jobs like factories, mines, etc. Then right to freedom of religion covered in Articles 25, 26, 27 and 28 provides religious freedom to all citizens of India. The objective of this right is to sustain the principle of secularism in India. Cultural and educational rights. The Constitution guarantees every single citizen of India both rights to education and culture. The Constitution also provides special measures to protect the rights of the minority communities. Any community that has a language and a script of its own has a right to conserve and develop it. No citizen can be discriminated against for admission in the state of or state-aided institutions. All minorities, religious or linguistic, can set up their own educational institution to preserve and develop their own culture. In granting aid to institutions, the state cannot discriminate against any institution on the basis of the fact that it is administered by a minority institution. Next is the right to constitutional remedies. Right to constitutional remedies, Article 32 empowers a citizen to move to court of law in case of any denial of the fundamental rights. That means if you feel that you are being denied with the fundamental rights, then you can go to court. Protection in respect of conviction for offences, Article 20. Now every day in our daily lives, we come across various news reports where someone is being accused of some offences. The basic question which every legal enthusiast face on coming across these issues are whether there is some sort of fundamental rights or protection for the accused. To deal with the same, Article 20 was included in Part 3 of the Constitution. As per this article, no person must be convicted with laws which doesn't exist at the time when the offence was done by the accused, and also must not enforce punishment more than those which exist at the time of commission. Secondly, no person shall be prosecuted and punished for the same offence more than once. No person accused of any offence shall be compelled to be a witness against himself. Next is the directive principles of state policy. Directive principles are certain ideals particularly aiming at socio-economic justice, which according to the framers of the Constitution, Indian state should strive for. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar described directive principles as a novel feature of the Constitution. The directive principles are classified on the basis of their ideological source and objective. Economic and social principles, directive based on Gandhian principle, directive principles relating to international peace, and miscellaneous directive principles. Economic and social principles. Directive principles of state policy aim to create social and economic conditions under which the citizen can lead a good life. They also aim to establish social and economic democracy through a welfare state, that is Article 38. Article 39 says that state shall in particular direct its policies towards securing the right to an adequate means of livelihood to all citizens. That means adequate means should be provided to all citizens. The ownership and control of material resources shall be organized in a manner to serve the common good. State shall avoid concentration of wealth in few hands. That means the wealth should be equally distributed among the people. Then equal pay for equal work for both men and women should be ensured. Similarly, the protection of the strength and health of the workers also should be ensured. Also, the childhood and youth are not to be exploited. Article 42 declares that the state shall make provisions for securing just and humane conditions of work and for maternity relief. According to Article 43, the state shall endeavour to secure to all workers a living wage and decent standard of life, while Article 43A says that the state shall take steps to secure the participation of workers in the management of industries. Directives based on Gandhian principles. Accordingly, state shall take steps to organize village panchayats as units of self-government. Article 40. The state shall endeavour to promote cottage industries on an individual or cooperative basis in rural areas. Article 45 provides free and compulsory education to all children till the age of 14 years. Later it was amended by 86th Constitutional Amendment Act 2002. It now declares that the state shall endeavour to provide early childhood care and education for all children until they complete the age of 14. That is Article 21A. Article 46 lays down that the state shall promote educational and economic interest of the weaker section of the people, particularly that of scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and other weaker section. Article 47 states that the state shall take steps to improve public health and prohibit consumption of intoxicating drinks and drugs that are injurious to health. Article 48 says that state shall take steps to prohibit slaughter of cows, calves and other milch and draught cattle. Directive principles relating to international peace and security. Article 51 is to promote international peace and security, to maintain just and honorable relations with the nation, foster respect for international law and treaty obligations, and it encourages settlement of international dispute by arbitration. Finally, miscellaneous directive principles. Article 44. The state shall endeavour to secure for the citizen a uniform civil code through the territory of India. The Uniform Civil Code calls for the formulation of one law for India, which would be applicable to all religious communities in matters such as marriage, divorce, inheritance, adoption, etc. Article 48A. It directs the states to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forest and wildlife of the country. Article 49. States should protect every monument or place of artistic or historic interest. Article 50. The state shall take steps to separate judiciary from the executive in the public services of the state. Fundamental duties. The fundamental duties which were added by the 42nd Amendment Act of the Constitution in 1976, in addition to creating and promoting culture, and also strengthens the hands of the legislature in enforcing these duties with regard to the fundamental rights. We should abet the Indian Constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag and the national anthem. We should cherish and follow the noble ideals that inspire the national struggle for freedom. We should uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. Also, we should defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so. Should promote harmony and spirit of common brotherhood among all people of India. Similarly, value and preserve the rich heritage of country's composite culture is also necessary. We should protect and improve the natural environment including forests, lakes, rivers and wildlife and to have compassion for living creatures. We should develop scientific temper, humanism and the spirit of inquiry and reform. We should safeguard public property and to abjure violence. We should strive towards excellence in all spheres of individuals and collective activity so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of endeavor and achievement. We should also provide opportunities for the education to his child or ward between the age of 6 and 14 years. This was added by the 86th Constitution Amendment Act 2002. And that's all in this presentation, and thank you, and these are my references.